Do you believe that you may have a problem with greed? Well, I can imagine that immediately you are just saying no, because who wants to be the Scrooge or Dagobert Duck or anybody that is seen as a character of greed? But isn't it possible that greed is actually in all of us? And that somehow, whether it's capitalism or modern society, the way the market is trying to promote new products, that somehow we are all more likely to have greed grow inside of us. And we have accepted it. Accepted it because maybe that is what makes us feel good. Maybe that's a comfort zone that we find ourselves in. Now, to know if you have a problem with greed, just let's look at a few symptoms that may help you to identify that. And then we can talk about what is a problem with greed, and is there a way to get out of it and not get stuck in that vicious cycle. Now, to know that you have a greed problem, that your mind may be occupied with greed, is if you find that no matter how much you have and how full you are, somehow there's still a nagging feeling inside of you that you want more. And if you see someone who has something bigger, better, newer, younger, you're jealous. And you really also want to now have that, what they have. And if you cannot have it, if you see that these people are ahead of you or have something better than you feel not only jealous, but you also feel upset. And maybe you start judging those people and tell yourself that they're posers or that they don't deserve to have what they have or that they're inauthentic and whatever negativity and maybe even hate is growing inside of you. It certainly is all about what they have, because what you value in others is more that what they have amassed, the money they have, how their image is, the purchases they have made, and really those inner qualities that ultimately make a human being either someone valuable or someone who has still a little bit of work to do. And that's the same for yourself. You see your value as how much money you have, or how your image is, or how maybe relevant you are in regards to just being always on top of the newest trends. And when you feel you're falling behind, you get very nervous and insecure. And that quest for something more and bigger and better is more important than the potential harm it does to yourself, your bank account, and all those that you really care about. And sometimes, in those very rare moments, you do feel that maybe all this greed and always wanting to have more, always looking for another deal or another way to make more money or buy something else, that this is maybe just a symptom of an inner void that has been really struggling inside of you. Something that wants to be filled, but just like a bucket with a hole, it never really gets full. But then you quickly dismiss this thought and tell yourself, this is not greed what I'm feeling, this is not emptiness what I'm feeling. This wanting more is just a healthy, shrewd, savvy, intelligent, business-like way of going through life. Because after all, isn't everyone like that? Isn't that how we are supposed to be? Isn't the success in life measured by what we have amassed and how much we have consumed and how good we look? I think we all agree that this sounds a little extreme, what I just listed. And you may really right away feel like, no, that's not me. I'm a very different person. But when you're really honest, now especially that the holidays are around the corner, isn't there also something inside of you that just is overextending themselves to have more or show up more or look better and just feel like that no matter what you have right now, is not good enough. There needs to be something on top of it. And even if you feel like you don't have the means to get it, you try to do it anyhow. The problem with this never satisfied part of us that is greedy, that really is just like the cookie monster, always stuffing in more, is that ultimately it's not only hurting ourselves, because it's really creating this thick layer of stuff around ourselves so that it becomes harder and harder to really understand who we are or even getting in touch with that. The problem is also that it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for our planet to always want more and always produce more and then always throw away stuff that is piling up on those landfills and eventually end up in the oceans. It's not sustainable for us to go always into that mindset that we are not having enough. Because in the end, all the resources are only limited. And so we cannot just try to pretend that we have an infinite resource amount that we can always get back to. The other problem with greed is that it's a little bit like a cat chasing a laser pointer, because we're looking for this. We're going after that little dot that is moving around, the commercials that tells us this is the best thing right now. You should definitely have a new watch because that's the upgrade and it's way better than the other one. Because once you have it, it somehow is no longer really that important. Because like many people, you may get it and you will never use it. You will still leave it in the package until the next upgrade that's showing up. So whatever you think you will get from having more ultimately doesn't really fill you up, and it doesn't give you the sense of satisfaction, the sense of having arrived that you actually want. At some point, we just have to stop chasing the mirage of feeling that we get happiness and peace and a sense of confidence through having more and maybe also gaining more, because it's not true. Because whatever we are looking for in all of these external validations through stuff or through bigger bank accounts is never really bringing peace and a sense of true self-worth to that what's inside of us. Because the more you identify yourself with something outside of you, the less you're really focusing on that what is true inside of you. And if you lose everything that you had, because who knows, maybe you have a streak of bad luck and you have to sell everything, you feel lost because your identity was all connected to that. And you have never really spent time with who you really are, who you are as long as you breathe, until the end of your days. And that is what the ultimate peace and value is. And that is what really can tell you that you are enough and that you don't need more to get that feeling. But how do you get there? How can you overcome greed? Well, the first thing is to admit to yourself that actually more purchases or making more money or getting new upgrades hasn't really made you as happy as you thought it would. It was like trying to heat a house with a match. Maybe it's looking nice for a moment, maybe it's even hot for a second, but then it disappears and you feel cold again and you want more of it. And then you really also accepting that what you really want is not more money or more things. What you really want is to feel a sense of security, a sense of worthiness, a sense of abundance, and that you can have that in other ways, in ways that are way more lasting and way more solid and profound than just money or stuff. So when you realize all of that, and when you're admitting to yourself, well, maybe my hole inside of me isn't about that I don't have yet enough, but that I don't see myself enough and that I don't value myself enough, then you can also start doing the journey to gaining real and true empowerment and true abundance. And to gain a real sense of abundance, first of all, already acknowledge what you have. Acknowledge all those things that you already have amassed, whether it's, your furniture, your home, your car, your gadgets. Just be happy with them for a moment. Maybe they're a little older, a little outdated, but really notice they do their job and that they are enough. And then expand your sense of abundance to your relationships. Maybe you have really, really good friends or a close, tightly knit relationship with your siblings or your parents. Maybe you and your partner really just still love each other after all those years, or you have the abundance of having amazing kids. Maybe there is abundance for you in regards to that, what you really feel about yourself, in regards to, I am healthy, my mind is working well, I do actually have a sense of purpose because what I do matters. Maybe that abundance is important to look at because we cannot take it for granted. Or maybe you have an abundance of time and you really have so much freedom. You may feel not really inspired or creative enough to fill the time with something that gives you meaning and a sense of satisfaction. But that time is also of incredible value, and you're prosperous if you have time. You're prosperous if you have energy. You're prosperous if you have love in your life. What we really need to focus on is what makes us lastingly abundant, and that doesn't necessarily cost a dime. And it doesn't require us to always chase, like the Riders of the Lost Ark, for some holy grail that in the end is just some myth that we cannot find. And then when you feel there is a greater sense of abundance and gratitude for that, what you have in your life, definitely find also gratitude for yourself. Just notice that hole inside of you has a label on it. And that label may say, I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I don't really matter. No one really cares. Or I don't belong here. And just realize that these old beliefs have been really outdated. You have way more evidence that they are not true because you have seen time and time that you do matter and that you do belong and that you do actually can feel good about yourself because you are someone of competency and someone of value. But the old belief is sticky because you never really replaced it with something else. So try to identify where this hole comes from, where the doubt and that disconnect with yourself comes from. And then find reasons to know and evidence that is in front of you why that belief is no longer true and no longer relevant. And be generous with yourself, just as you have been generous with yourself when you try to go through purchases to fill the hole. Be generous with yourself, but look at your life now and in the past and see your worthiness. See why you are a very valuable person, why you are enough. And then when you feel all of this, just foster the sharing of yourself and the things you have with others. Just realize that part of what made you also feel maybe dissatisfied so that the greed had the fertile ground to grow is that you were not open to connect, open to spend some time with others, open to maybe show what's inside of you, admitting that you are anxious or that you're struggling, or just sharing hardship that you felt too ashamed to really, let anybody in about. Just allow yourself to also know that whatever you have to offer, the good, the challenging, your stories, your wisdom that you have gained, maybe just a good laugh, it matters. And it's a part of your contribution while you're here. And that makes you automatically feel more full and satisfied at the end of the day. Also try to control the impulse. The impulse of wanting something because you just got told and hypnotized by the commercial that this is what you ought to have in order to really be someone and to really be happy and to really be attractive. And just realize this is just talking to my little midbrain that is seeing a cookie and wants the whole jar right now. And that we all have that, especially when we're children, and that we have to learn to engage other parts of our brain, the frontal lobe, to say, no, I don't need it. I don't even have the money for it. And it's not necessary. I'm totally fine with what I have. Let's simplify life. Let's make it more easy and manageable and meaningful because of it. And all of this brings you back into the present moment. Because this quest for more, whether it's you wanted to just need to have another buck, another deal, another great affair that you have been, writing into your book, another purchase that you have made, all of those things ultimately get you away from the present moment because it puts you way out there. It puts you into this, there is the happiness, there is the fulfillment, there is this moment of feeling good. And you're never really here. Because as soon as you arrived at one spot, just when you made that deal or that purchase, you already look for the next one. And so you're really never in the now. And the greatest gift we all know is being in the present. So greed is not something I want you to feel bad about or see yourself as, a sinner or a terrible person. I just want you to understand that greed is something we all have. It's almost like a natural addiction to more. And that is usually from that place of not having enough. And that not having enough, which is for the most part an illusion, is driven by that sense of not being enough. And when was the last time you told yourself, I am enough? When was the last time you really felt it? And it's not even about the having, it's really the being. That even stripped away of all those things that you were identifying yourself with, that you still are enough. Just repeat this after me. I am enough. I have enough. And life is abundant and good, just the way it is. And if you can repeat this to yourself, you know greed no longer dominates your mind. Greed is something that maybe at times a little impulse, and it's okay sometimes to go after the impulse and buy something, splurge a little bit. Just don't make it your major driving force in life. Because given the state of this world, and also given this imbalance between those that have and the majority of those that don't, plus the state of the planet, our environment, we cannot really let greed go unchanneled. We have to reel it in, and we have to be more simple and more responsible with how we go about life. Hi, Dr. Friedemann here. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning more about fear and anxiety, here you'll find guided meditations, webinars, and interviews with some of the most renowned experts in the field of empowerment. Delve into the over 230 videos and more to come every week.